Welcome. Thank you guys so incredibly much for joining us on another episode of Starseed Activations. So I'll just give it a minute. I want to try something a tiny bit different. So what we are going to do is we are going to take a couple deep breaths, and the star people actually want us all to join in a form of a meditation, which will then in turn raise our biological frequency and allow the connection between you guys and the star people to fully take place. And so if everybody watching can just take a deep breath in. This is my gym hair, Melissa. I need the flat iron. Okay, take a deep breath in. And release. But thank you, Melissa. It's wonderful. Okay, take a deep breath in. And release. Now, I want each and every one of you to feel grounded to Mother Earth. Just imagine that you're on a beach. Your feet are in the warm sand. The sun is glistening down on your face, down on your body, making you feel all warm and glowy and full of life. Now, just that the salty air is a very tiny breeze, just gently touching your body, making you feel just so much in love with the present moment. And just give a good ground into Mother Earth. Just open your heart chakra and fully enlighten and expand it. Allow Mother Earth to feel your energetic grid structures reactivating and tuning into her energetics as well, making you each an individual but connected into the whole of Mother Earth. And so take a deep breath in and release. Now, I want each and every one of you guys to say thank you, star people, for allowing me to be part of this transmission. Thank you, star people, for coming and actually making communication and contact with me and with all of the people who I love, who want to make communication with you guys. So just take a deep breath in and release. Okay. How does everybody feel? That's a little different than what we normally start with, right? And so, hold on, we're going to wave the crystal. Here's the crystal. Good morning. Welcome. Thank you. I've been resisting the wavy hair. But I do know when the summertime hits, there's no helping it, because when you flat iron it and it's summertime, it's Ronald McDonald's. And so this is what it is. But thank you very much. When I was a kid, it was actually pin curls. And so my daughter, she used to have tiny little pin curls too. And so, but we just had no idea how to maintain it. And so it turned into waves. But thank you guys very much. I was a little worried about it because there was just no time for the flat iron. I've been trying to hit the gym. So I'll go to Planet Fitness now. And then we're in the red light therapy. So I do that and it shakes you and all sorts of stuff. And like now I'm on the elliptical and all everything we do. And so today it was like, there's no time. Yesterday I went twice, right? So it was like a power energy day. Today I spent the whole morning doing the crystal packages. So, I did a bunch of the crystal packages that you guys had ordered. They're all wrapped, ready to ship. And then I did pull a couple of winners. And so I did say that I was going to randomly pull people to win like a mini crystal box. And so I did that. I pulled more than one. I can't help myself. I'm a giver. And so I love giving people stuff. So it was just a blessing. So I made those too. So I'm going to put those in the mail. So everyone who watches, just keep your eyes on the mailbox and see, maybe you're one of the lucky winners. Yeah. Well, I'm going. Thank you. Thank you, Caroline. I called you. You missed it. Danica, your hair is super curly. Do you want to know what is funny? Because my Starman has been encouraging me to leave the curls. And I'm like, no, right? I'm like a hard no. And he's like, but you don't realize what you're actually doing to your hair, right? Your hair has water in it. It's supposed to have that water because what is water? Water holds memory. And so when we were taking the flat iron and I over flat iron mine, so it gets dry and then I have to put oil in it. So it doesn't it looks like static electricity. It's crazy. It's absolute craziness. But he's like, you're removing all the water, which is messing up your magnetism. And not only that, but like I love shaving, but he's like, you girls are not supposed to be shaving your legs because it messes up your magnetism, right? And so think about it this way. If you had a bug crawling on your leg, you're going to feel it. If you have a piece of hair and that hair moves, or it's like an extra sensory ability that you have because you have the hair on the legs. I was like, I'm not ready for that. But the curls, maybe, just maybe. But it's gonna happen anyway, because if we're in the pool in the summer and all that stuff, it's too hot. Like, so thank you guys. I'm glad you like it. Okay, so we do have, thank you. We do have a couple questions. So, okay, let's dive right in. So I think everyone's on now, right? I wanted to give everyone some time to come in. So I see everyone is here. Wonderful. Welcome, Stephanie. Welcome, welcome, Instagram. I see you guys too. Thank you guys all for joining. And so thank you for being here. Thank you for making time and making this space so that we can all have this transmission together. So it means a lot to me that you guys show up and that, I show up for you guys. It's just beautiful. It's a beautiful community. And so with that all being said, let's dive into the good stuff, right? And so explain a divine counterpart and their purpose. Does everyone have one or only on certain missions? So a divine counterpart would be any person that you feel is a high magnetism to you. So many, many times when you run into a soulmate, you'll know it. You'll feel it immediately. Now, I also have information that the star people gave me talking about a heart chakra pulse. And so when you meet someone that is in divine alignment, your heart will actually skip a beat. And I've felt this happen. So I know that it happens. And he had to point it out in my memory. I was like, oh, yeah, because when it happened, I was like, oh, something happened. Right. I didn't think it was a good thing. I thought it was like I was having a heart palpitation. So, but now that we know, we look for the heart chakra pulse. That's what it's called. It's not actually, it is the heart, he's saying, but it's like an energetic. Just imagine, the star people are saying, just imagine a magnet. And so that magnet all of a sudden meets another magnet. And what happens to the energetics, because your heart chakra is magnetic and there is electricity, like a chi energy that goes as well. But the second that you come into contact or stand face to face with like a soulmate or a counterpartner or a twin flame, anyone who like has an individual magnetic grid that is drawn to you to such an extreme degree, the star people are saying. And so they're saying the chakras form, it's like a snap, like an energetic cord structure that automatically combines two individuals in the holographic simulation. And so I was having a hard time saying that. Thank you, guys. And so it automatically forms an energetic cord. I feel like the government man is here and he's like scrambling my brain right now. You can't make this stuff up. So we're just going to just take a quick moment. Do you guys feel the distortion? Like, I don't know if you felt it, but it's wild. Okay. Okay. So your divine counterpart forms an energetic cord that links both of you guys together. And so give him a juice box. He got really mad when I did that because I felt him turn the machine on higher. So, and the star people were like, quit playing with fire. And I was like, okay. So, but that's funny. Hope he doesn't get pissed again. So the two of you guys, the energetic cord snaps to one another. And so it makes like a heart chakra pulse because you feel it like tunk is what it feels like, which is kind of like a heart palpitation. So a lot of times when you feel someone like that, then all of a sudden it's like, you know that you guys are meant to be together. And so many times some of the twin flames, because that soul loves you that much, they come into your physical reality in order to assist in the cycles. And so you may have a cycle coming up, and now all of a sudden the twin flame comes in and it makes that cycle happen faster because he or she is helping you on your journey of evolution. And so some twin flames come in and they seem very turbulent and it's like a tung, and then all this drama and chaos. And then it's like, but you learn so much from having that twin flame come in. And so that's why some people are like, oh, we don't like twin flames. And that's because but the expansion and the growth is like 10 times what you would have had if you didn't have a twin flame. So each person does the energetic bonding. And when you have a partner, it doesn't matter if they're a twin flame, a soulmate, none of that stuff. It just in the physical reality. You met someone, you liked them, you fell in love with them, he's your partner or she's your partner, whatever. When you have a partner, your energetics start to automatically blend. Now, we've spoken about cord cutting before. Cord cutting, it's always been described. You wave a little crystal, I magically cut all these cords and it's done. The cords are magnetic. So when you have a magnetic cord, you have to magnetically cut the cord. And so you have to actually release the person in your heart. Now, that does not mean that you stop holding love for the person. That doesn't mean that you don't love them. It just means that you send them love and you allow them to have the experience in their holographic simulation that they are meant to have. And what that does, it's like, I release you. I had to do it too. I had to release any and all people, all places, all things, all animals, all insects. I had to release. And so what you're actually doing is your energetic grid surfaces itself to you, your natural frequency. So it's a positive and a beneficial. Now, you'll hear some yogis and like monks, they'll tell you that you can't have any attachment to the physical world. That means people, places, and things. They just don't explain it energetically. So I don't really listen to them, but I've heard them on TikTok. But when they say you have to cut all the cords and all that stuff, it never really clicked in my mind until it was like, oh, so I have to actually go inside my heart and say, it's okay. And so it's that, as a mom, I have little kids. And so there's a part of me that like panics if they're doing dangerous stuff, but you have to just be okay, right? For them to have their own experiences. And it's one of the hardest things that any person can do, because you're like, how the hell am I going to do that with my child? But when you do it, it's like liberating. And then all of a sudden it changes the way that everything flows and everything manifests. So for example, if your partner isn't waking up to the spiritual knowledge, you have to release energetically. And so I release any and all people. You are allowed to have whatever experiences manifest that your soul so chooses to manifest. And then that's it. And then it doesn't mean you don't love him. You still love him or her. And then all of a sudden they will actually start the wake up process. So they'll start to have the signs and synchronicities, and they'll become spiritually awake and aware, because you're no longer holding resistance. Because each person, plant, thing, and all beings, all the trees, all the planets, all that stuff is a reflection of your frequency. And so star people have said this many times. Your frequency comes down and then it radiates out in a circle. And then when it comes back in, it forms a sacred geometric snowflake. And so let's take the location coding, because there's 3 rings above your head. One is your primary binary codex frequency. That makes up your physical body. The second one is your location code. The third one is like the universal code. Like we know the stars and planets are up there. So there's 3 rings. And so we always go and we focus on the body first, because changing the internal frequency changes the frequency that radiates out into the other 2 grids. When you're in love with your life, everything around you turns blissful and better. And this is how we save the planet. It's by healing ourselves. It's by coming back to love. This is why all the star seeds and light workers are here on the planet. We're not here. I mean, some people are here in the hologram to like pick up the pitchforks and go fight. But meditation works better than that, because when we do it in the frequency, we do it with compassion, we do it with love, we radiate this type of energy out. It's your aura field. And so when we radiate it out, it shifts what we see in the outside world. Now, if any of you guys have ever heard of quantum walking. So quantum walking, you can go into a meditation while you're walking, and you can, through the process of visualization, you can project what it is that you wish to manifest. You can see it. You can start to see it, your astral eyes, all this stuff will fire up, especially if you're in alignment, if you're doing the work, healing the chakras. All of you guys who did the attachment classes, you guys are my rock stars. No joke, because I know what I went through during the class. I felt what each and every one of you guys went through. And so it was a lot of releasing. It was a lot of, all of this stuff just came out and got transmutated. And so now I'm doing the cleanup with it's. I feel like I keep calling it the cleanup crew. I'm like, now we have to unpack. And so we're going to clean all this stuff up, right? And so all these people, you come back at me and let's dive through the emotions and clean it. And let's see what changes actually manifest into your physical reality. So when each and every one of you guys do the attachment release class, unfortunately, the star people made it very clear we are not allowed to record any type of attachments, because, and I hate to use the word demon, but they're saying it's like there's demons and they can latch onto the video. And then if we watch the video, it can there's all sorts of stuff that we are just unaware of. So they said no audio recording when you're dealing with attachments. It was amazing. And not only that, but I didn't stop. And so when people are when you're diving into your emotions and you're actually releasing, you can't stop. You know what I mean? If you're in the middle of a healing, you can't just stop. So I let it run. So we ran. It was like over 4 hours. And so not only that, but I did it before too. So it was for me. It was all day. But the great part about being the instructor is that I'm learning during the process too. And so some of the stuff the star people channeled through during the healing session, I would have never thought I would have said. Like, it was totally not me. But after the session, they had me in a saltwater bath, showering, cleansing, purifying. I had the sage, right? So I saged the bedroom too. I have a little sage spray. I know it's not the same. I know it has chemicals, but it has sage on it. So I'm like, thank you for blessing and protecting, right? And it smells like sage. So it's triggering my brain waves. But they had me outside. We burned sage. I took 3 baths total. And then I had to sit. I had to go through a rebalancing. They had to do a full energetic twice. So, but they told me not to give up, to keep doing it, to keep pulling the attachments off of people, because eventually I will master it. And when I master it, I'll just be able to go, boop, get off. And then that's it. It's gone. And then it releases the emotion code inside of a person. So like, for example, if you know the emotion code to a trauma, any trauma, say trauma A, you know the emotion code because you've walked it. I've walked through most of these, 99% of these emotions. I've walked through all of them. And so, but when you know it, now all of a sudden I can sense it when it's on other people because it's a frequency. The trauma, right? Now think about it this way. When you get hurt and that hurt generates a fear, that fear changes you. So it changes your behavior, it changes your patterns, but it also changes your energetics. I can feel your energetics, and I'm like, a master in my own right at reading people's body language, because I went through a period where I couldn't hear. You guys hear all about my medical. Like, I couldn't hear, I couldn't, there's something for everything, right? But I went through a time in which I couldn't hear anything. And I would walk around and people would talk to me. And I'm like, what? Like, that was my go-to word. What? Like, and I would say it all the time. Like, I didn't hear you. I'm sorry. Could you just write down? Right? And I really thought I was going deaf for a moment, but it taught me to use my visual. And so what it taught me was to read body language, to see the signs, the shifts, the micro expressions, all this stuff. And then not only that, it got to such a degree where it leveled up to which now I could read the frequency. So I was feeling your emotions before I even realized what the hell was happening. And this is including people who didn't speak my language. I was laughing at their jokes. So by not having access to your ears, you can level up your other senses. For a while, I couldn't see. For a while, I couldn't hear, right? So I've gone through all of these different things. And I've had, my head went numb once because of something with my spine. I was crippled, right? And so my legs were numb. I couldn't walk at one point. So I overcome all of these different things, all these different body parts, right? I had the high blood pressure, all this stuff. I've been through everything. But because I went through all that stuff, one, I learned how to heal it all on my own because the doctors really didn't help me. They were like, tough luck, kid. Here's some pills, right? That didn't help. It's not a cure. And so it led me to not trust the pharmaceutical companies, because if you're not offering me a cure, then what the hell am I going to do with this? I'm going to have to be, it's like a slave. You have to go once a month and you have to go to the pharmacy and get these pills, and it's not going to cure you. It's just going to dull your senses. That's the whole, it's a loop. It's like a hamster wheel. And so it's ridiculous to be on that hamster wheel because you want to cure. You want to cure yourself. And so you have to become mentally strong. But not having access to use my own body taught me something else. Okay, now I can't use my body, so I have to be smart. And so then I started researching and just trying to do a little bit of reading, and, all this knowledge came to me about the conspiracy. And so then, you use your brain. And then all of a sudden I started diving into like the physical body. Well, how do we heal the physical body? So now I know a whole bunch of cures to a whole bunch of things. And so, but then that spiraled upwards because then it started leading me down a spiritual path. So yeah, I see him in the live chat here. 1 second. Oh. Yeah, but it's taught me so much, and it's taught me a lot about myself, because at one point I didn't think I could walk, and so I couldn't walk. And then when I believed I could walk, then I could throw a high kick. In a karate, we do high kicks. And so then it led to more things, right? And this is the journey of life. So each and every one of us, whenever we get sick, it's always an opportunity to recode the patterning inside of our body. So if you have something going on, you have to pull it all apart and you have to fractalize it, the star people are saying. And so now the star people told me I have to call upon the herbal corporation. They said I have to summon the herbal corporation. And so whatever herbs, right? Like my diet could be a ton better. I have eating issues. It's an issue for me, I think, because like I like a few things. I don't eat 90% of the food on the market. So they're telling me now I'm going to be diving into herbs, right? And learning all about the different herbs that's going to, give nutrients. So if you're not having a full widespread diet, what else can you do? Right. So I bought a bunch of teas with mushrooms and all sorts of stuff. And like, instead of sugar, it's monk fruit. Like we try and change and see how we feel. See if it raises your frequency, see if it's worth the time, right? All these things. You try it. I like to guinea pig everything on myself first before anything. So yeah, but this is the process of learning. It's experiential. And so, but this is how each and every one of us are meant to be learned. Now, we have all been brainwashed and programmed to not believe someone else's experience. That's a bottom line fact. And so when you look at someone and they tell you, oh, I did this and it worked, and then you're just like, no, I don't believe them. Right. So how many times have we heard that on the TV? We just didn't realize. You have to go and you have to get this pill because the TV told you to. But this lady over here told me oregano. Right. And so we don't believe her because it's crazy, but we'll take the pill that's full of chemicals. So in my mind, I'm like, we're going to try and go organic first. So if we can potentially clear something, if something's going on with a plant, we want to use the plant first. That's just me and my motto. But yeah, it always works. Proud of you for figuring out what diet works for you. Thank you. It's very tough. So I know sugar doesn't work for me because when I was a kid, they told me I was hypoglycemic. And so then I stopped eating sugar and then I started eating sugar. And so, yeah, it really, I feel like when you're not in alignment with something, it causes an imbalance and then it makes you work through it. So you either have to release and like the hero's quest usually requires a sacrifice. And so many times we are required to do a sacrifice, and the sacrifice, it can be something as lost your sound as soon as I commented, oh, I'm sorry, but a sacrifice could be something like sugar, right? Something that you really enjoy, and then all of a sudden if your body's like no more, you have to make the sacrifice. You have to stop doing that, or you have to find an alternative, so you switch, right? And so that's what it is. But you have to always be focused on doing what is healthy for you in the now moment. That's key, because if you just let yourself go, you're just letting yourself go. You're not really placing focus on the body. And so let's try the other crystal. So we are supposed to be focusing on our bodies every single day. Taking a shower every single day. Your hair, right? You're supposed to be recharging the water in your hair every single day. And so I was like, I'm flat ironing and I'm going to continue to keep it dry and keep flat ironing it. And they're like, you're not supposed to do that. They never tell me I can't. They're like, it's your lesson to learn from. And so you can either do it or you can not do it. But if you don't do it, it's going to have more water in the hair and it's going to amplify your antenna. So if you're sitting here all day long, and it doesn't matter where you are or what you're doing, I could be walking in a supermarket and focused on my heart. I could be walking on a beach and focused on my heart. I could be driving in a car and focused on my heart. When I focus on my heart, I am spreading love, joy, and peace. I am radiating my aura field as far as I can push it. And so your antenna actually changes the timelines you're on, because this is your antenna. So just imagine that for 1 second. All of the hair on your body acts like an antenna and can potentially help you shift the timelines, because you're holding all this love, and this is the antenna to broadcast it. You're supposed to have, we know the government already told us, you're supposed to have 5 inches and your intuition becomes heightened. This is short hair. This is still a little past my chin, like up to my shoulder. Now, what happens if you had hair that was extremely long and you braided it because you didn't want to cut it all off because you knew it was your antenna? You'd probably look like an Indian, right? So where did they get that knowledge from? Who told them to leave their hair long and just braid it on up, right? And keep it wet and clean it. Like, it's crazy. It's crazy. See? Yeah, chaga mushrooms, awesome. Absolutely awesome. So I like to do the borax. Borax is wonderful because I had a hormone imbalance. And so when I did the borax, it balanced all my hormones, and I could tell. I felt it right away. But it also is known to pull any of the bad calcium out of the body. And so the bad calcium, also heavy metals and stuff, whatever they're putting in the food, if there's any heavy metals, all that negative stuff gets removed. And so charcoal is another really, really good one. And so charcoal, we have the coal biters, I believe. And I don't know what country that they're from, but the people over there realized that when the runt of the litter is what they used to call these children, were really skinny and scrawny, they couldn't go out into the bitter snow and like go hunting and get firewood and stuff. So they left them in the house to tend the fire. They would get all the charcoal on their fingers, and then they would get the charcoal all over the place. They were covered in it, but then they turned into like the strongest kid. And so charcoal pulls any and all of the toxins out of your body. So what happens to people who overdose on any substance? And so they go to the hospital and they pump them full of charcoal because it's pulling all the toxins out. The thing about that is that most of the medications have toxins in it. And so if you're on thyroid medicine, you can't eat the charcoal because then the charcoal is going to pull out your medicine. You're going to mess with your thyroid. So, right, you have to figure out your own body. This is why I can only tell you guys what I figured out that works for me. You guys have to take it. You have to research it yourself because you have to be responsible for your own choices. I just know this worked for me, and maybe you can help other people. You guys have to research it too. So thank you. You love my hair. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, you look for borax. Amazon has it. And so I do. There's a bunch of organic ones. I have one in a jar. I'll try and send you a photo. Yeah, activated charcoal. It's good. Yeah, the activated one is good. That's what I do. I used to get it in a giant bag, and it was a mess. Absolute mess. But I'm like, for the same price as a tiny little bottle of pills, I can get this 2-pound bag, and then I could just scoop it in a cup and drink it. So it's amazing. It's amazing. It actually, the charcoal, activated charcoal, it acts like a magnet. And so it has a magnetic property to it where it pulls the toxins out of your body. Amazing stuff. Absolutely amazing. So excellent. So let's go. We only made it to one question. This is, what time is it? Oh, wow. That's like a half hour. Let me see. Explain, what does it mean to be a quantum computer, and does it pertain to experiencing all time and all space? How long does that pertain to sacred union? Okay, so there's many different sacred unions. There's your sacred union among the planet that you are on, as well as the individual that you are bonding with. Everything should be sacred. And so even eating a plate of food is technically sacred because in that moment you are meant to be casting on that food. And so casting is just when we project our energy and our love, because love is magnetism, and we always have to use love in order to project the chi energy. They go hand in hand. So it's kind of like you have to learn to use both, like the clutch and the stick shift, right? Your chi energetics is the stick shift, and the clutch you want to push to get the chi energetics to go. They work hand in hand. This is how the Kundalini works too. It's two. And so you have to utilize both of them at the same time. So am I answering the Facebook questions? No. Somebody sent the questions in to the website. And so I just wrote them down real quick. So I like to answer everyone's questions. Sometimes I miss the website questions. Wait a minute. Sometimes I miss the Facebook questions because it scrolls and it would confuse me too much to see it all. So what I do is I just write it down. Explain what it means to be quantum computer, and does it pertain to experiencing all time, all space? You see how I get distracted? It's crazy. Okay, so a quantum computer, they're saying basically it means that you can see every single potential outcome. So each and every one of us has the potential to become quantum, like activate the quantum nature of our divine being, is what they are saying in specific. We are already quantum because we are floating through a sea of quantumness. And so what that means is your brain waves raise in frequency, your thought grids, or the way that you process all of the thoughts, raises in frequency to such a degree in which you can start projecting into the future and seeing the timeline that you're on before it actually manifests. Now, my Starman, he can see the thoughts before it actually reaches into my mind. It's weird how this is, but it's like I can hear the thought over here, and then it's not in my head yet. It's like over here. And he's like, we're not going to allow that thought. But he makes it known to me that he's removing that thought because it was a negative thought. And so then he's like, you have to learn to, because he's showing me how to do this. But it's like I hear it before it's here. So this is what it means to be quantum, because we have the power of foresight. Now, foresight means that we can see into the future before the future is fully manifested. If you take a brainwave reader and you put it on everyone's head and you show them images, The computer is going to show you that your brainwaves are going to fire off a few seconds before you actually see the image. And so that shows us that our brainwaves are seeing the image before we actually physically see it in the physical world. So what does that mean? This is a simulation. This is how it proves it, right? Right off the bat, your brainwaves know what you're about to see. So that means you're seeing into the future. So how does this whole thing work? Well, it works if it's not solid. It works if you're an antenna. It works if it's a simulation and you are magnetically manifesting the things to you. Now, what the experiment didn't tell us, because they don't know, what the star people told us, is that now just imagine the person sitting in that computer chair watching all these images. Imagine that they raise their frequency. Imagine that they go into their heart. The amount of photos that they are shown is going to be more positively aligned and less negative. And so they can potentially change what they see, what they magnetically attract to them by going inside and changing their frequency. That's how strong we are. And so when I tell you guys, I know what divine alignment looks like because I've seen it. I see it in my own life. So the universe always puts me in the right place at the right time. Always. If there's going to be a fight somewhere, I'm always like 5 minutes before, I'm like, oh, I got to go, guys. I don't know why. I just have to go. And then I go. And then the fight breaks out. And then I hear about it later. I'm always in alignment like that. And each and every one of you guys can too. You just have to be loving, caring, kind to all the people around you. That's very simple. Right? So don't get angry at people when they cut you off in traffic. Thank you. I love you. Have a nice day. Right? Smile. Thank you, guys. Peace. I throw the peace a lot because it's my thing. And so on my Facebook, you have like, I tell my kids to throw the 22s. And I never knew it was an actual spiritual sign. So they have pictures of like Jesus Christ doing this. Right? And this was how I made the sparkles too. For those of you guys that know, because I was talking about it, you know how Dr. Strange made like the shield, right? That's actually real. It's your chi energetics. And so I sat there for over an hour. My arm got really tired, but I seen the sparkles and my heart was really low. Like I slowed it down. Like it was a daydream short of meditation. And then I seen it. And the second I seen it, I got all excited and it disappeared. But it is possible. So you have to get into that daydream mode. Now, just imagine the star people are stepping forward saying, you're activating your pineal gland. So while you're doing this meditation, you're going into the heart, you're loving your life, you're loving every single thing. And then you have to meditate, activate the pineal gland, and then you can access. It's an astral on top of the physical reality. So you're accessing both the physical and the spiritual. Now, this is very important because they keep giving people physical examples as well as spiritual examples. So let's say you get sick, right? Your sickness is in pancreas. Right? So you have to close your eyes, take a deep breath, visualize your pancreas, visualize sending it so much white light that it fills itself with so much white light that it looks like it's going to blind you. Right? And so this time you have to use time and space. So you have to continuously sending the area of the body love over and over and over and over again, because this method is more logical based, is what the star people are saying. There's other methods in which you can go drop into a meditation and you can invoke the higher self and you can make a frequency change instantly and you can instantly heal any single disease. I think the hardest one to do is teeth, because that's more like you're seeing it every day, or like if you're missing an arm, right? So that would require the higher self's authorization to make a timeline switch. So it can't be something that you're going to learn from, or like it was divinely aligned before you came here, or something like that. Like it's basically like the higher self has to approve. The higher self can see the entire timeline. So if the higher self is not approving of the instantaneous healing, that means that there's something there for you to learn from. So we have to all have trust and faith. The higher self, just imagine that it's you, but it's the version of you that sees the entire timeline. Right? So how many people can you help if you lost the arm? Is it going to give you a mission, or what's going to change in your actual life? So that's how that works. It's not always fair. I don't always think it's fair. Just imagining works. There was a child, and the child, I think he lost a toe or something, or no, it was his whole foot. And so, but he always had lizards, and he was little. Nobody ever told him that human beings don't regrow stuff. So he saw the lizards over and over again. They would lose the tail and the tail would regrow. So all of a sudden his foot started to regrow. And then after like a year or so, he regrew the toes too and the toenails. So it's all the belief system, because we're in a holographic simulation. Yeah, the Doctor Strange portals are real. All that stuff is real. It's actually part of disclosure. And so I relate to all of that stuff, all the magic shows, because before I knew I was a channel, I would sit and I would watch all. And I'm like, oh, we need magic, right? And I would say it over and over again. Magic, we need magic. Everything needs to be magic. Every Halloween I was a magician, right? And so it was just, that's always been my thing. And when watching all the movies over and over and then going through the awakening process, and then I'm like, we have to watch a movie again because now I know what they're talking about. So I'm fun when you sit down with me and you watch the movies. I'm like, oh, this is what they're talking. Pause it, right? This is exactly what they mean. This is what they're talking about. You know, it's encoded. And so let me tell you something. It's like the Emerald Tablets of Thoth. And so you read it once and you're at a certain level of consciousness and you're pulling certain information from the Emerald Tablets. And so you're like, great, that's wonderful. But then you go through this awakening process and then you read it again, or you listen to it again, the audio books, whatever. You'll listen to it again. And then all of a sudden you're like, oh, that's what he's talking about. But then another year and a half will go by. You'll listen to it again on a fluke. And you're like, you're pulling new information out of it again. And so, but that's just an example because that is how our consciousness works. Time, space is not really real. Science is fluid. And so what that means is it's all what your consciousness is willing to accept as a program, because you're either programming your consciousness or you're allowing the television and the newspapers to do it. So I choose to program myself. So I like to do self-taught directions, right? And so you teach yourself. Or even at my point now, I don't even interact with human education material. I take it straight to the star people. And so if I feel the need to do any sort of educational, I'll reread all the posts I wrote. I still reread them. And so I go through and I read it. I'm like, damn, that's genius. I'm like, I don't even remember writing that. And so I say it all the time to my post. It's just genius. And I read it over and then I'm pulling new information, new thoughts, new ideas. I have new questions for the star people when I go back. There's over 500 posts. How can you remember them all? But you can call upon the information when you need it. And so I'm very blessed and I'm very, very grateful because I have the star people to gift me the information as I need it to give to you guys. All my posts are right online. They're on my Facebook page. You just have to scroll down. It's all the way down. But you can find them all. They're there. And when something resurfaces, like when two or three people have a question, I normally find the post in my notepad and I repost it out for everybody. So this way it's like everyone can use it at once. So that's important to me because if someone's going to be able to help heal themselves and stuff. Where do we find the Emerald Tablets of Thoth? It's on YouTube, I believe. YouTube has it. I don't know about the bookstore. I used to just put it on the radio and walk around and clean because the kids were little, you know, but it's just very interesting. It's an interesting read, and I do encourage every single one to read it because you know what? If you listen to any of the spiritual knowledge, that's going to open your mind and get you guys to start asking questions. That's why I always want to take questions from people. Give me the questions, right? Because the questions I learned just as much as you guys learn. And then the star people are like, well, this is how we do it. And like, it's a learning process for them too. They are real physical beings in real bodies. Like they mate, they reproduce, they wake up in the morning, they do all sorts of things. But yes, they are in 5D. Yes, they have instantaneous manifestation of whatever it is that they want, right? So they have replicators. They can instantaneously heal. They can anti-age their bodies. There's a whole bunch of stuff. That's 5D. We're heading there as a civilization. You could see this. We have computers. We have iPhones. We have all this technology. Now it's just a matter of this cycle. The star people are stepping forward and they're saying this cycle of evolution has happened many times on your planet. And the people will get to a certain degree of technological means and get knocked back down. And this is the reason, this is the main reason for the star seeds on the planet today, because now all of a sudden the star seeds are holding more love and light, and we forgive, right? So anyone who's ever thrown a knife in my back, I forgave you. I forgive each and every one of you guys. I love you very much. I needed to learn from the experiences. So if that experience manifested for me, it means that there was something for me to learn from. Now, what happens when we're cautious? When you're cautious, you're actually shifting your frequency. Or if you think you need to be protected, which is why I'm always telling you guys, like, I really don't want to have to do protections. I want to just believe I'm in divine alignment and believe that everything will protect me. And so I believe that that's more powerful, because when you believe that you're protected, nothing can touch you. And so even with the government, man, right? It's nowadays he comes, sometimes I'll feel him. Most of the times I don't even feel him. And so I hold a higher frequency of love. After the thing, I'm always love and lighting everybody. Now we thank the star people, right? And it's a learning lesson for me too. Like, I keep things real with you guys, but this we had a conversation about the angels. And so I did an energetic clearing. We called upon the angels. The angels did not leave the room. And so it was an attachment release. So afterwards, I had to have an energetic clearing. And our turns were like, you have to dismiss the angels. You have to tell them it's okay for them to leave. And I guess they hang out. Who knew? Like, who knew? Mind blown. And so I told them, thank you very much for your service. And thank you guys for leaving. And so then our turns are like, she doesn't thank us. She thanked them. Right. So now it's expanded. So now it's like, now everyone, thank you guys. So we say thank you to the star people. And this way we know too, because when you guys go and you talk to the star people, you ask them questions, right? We have to always keep a level of gratitude. So sometimes when you talk to everyone, it's like a work week, right? You guys all meet at the water cooler and you talk. We're not as thankful to each other. And so we have to take it one level further and be thankful to all the humans as well. And so you have to be thankful to all of the people involved during the ascension process. Just remember, these guys, they're our family. And so now I know, I have a husband. I also have a mother. And there's other people in the Arcturian tribe that are like, they're my people from my past life. So, we want to always keep it happy and grateful. And thank you. Thank you guys for coming and healing the planet. Because the planet, at one point, I thought we were going to blow up. So, thank you if anyone's up there, and then all of a sudden there was people up there. So it's wild and amazing. It's an amazing ride. Okay, let's do the next question. Okay, so quantum computer means basically you're seeing all the potentials and you're picking and choosing which potential you wish to manifest by changing your magnetic grids. So can you seed children for future timelines? There's people who play with timelines. There's time cops there's time cops. That's a thing. And so imagine that a new civilization just got a hold of time travel technology. And so what is it? The first thing that they're going to do, they're going to try and go back in time and mess things up and see if it changes their future. That's always the first thing everybody does. But then they realize that there's no such thing as time and space. So they're just going back in time, which becomes their future. And then they mess stuff up and then they can't fix it because now it is what it is. And that timeline, it's a parallel reality. And then they go back to their time and nothing has changed. Time is fluid. And so it's circular in its nature. It's like a vortex, like a circle with a vortex inside of it that spirals, but it's actually going from up to down. And so you guys remember how they keep telling us our frequency comes down. It's coming down in a vortex. And then it's coming out circular. And then when it comes back, it makes a sacred geometric snowflake. And so that time and space is like this. And so we perceive it to be like this, but that's not true. It's up and down as time and space. It's just easier for our mind to recognize it as linear, but that's not the case at all. It's up and down. And it's a frequency. So the happier your frequency, the higher your frequency, the faster time goes. The sadder you are, the slower time goes. And so that's the way time and space actually works. Now, from left to right is more like space. So you have time, you have space. So space would be like, which parallel reality are you magnetically attracting into your consciousness? And so we have the circles, but it's like circle, but it's like a spiral. And then we have the squares. So this parallel reality, it's a square. And then the next one is a square. And then the next one. And so it's in a positive and in a negative. So we're in Earth 1, 2, and 3, and 4, and 5. And then all of a sudden there's a negative Earth and a negative. So your density level is directly impacting which parallel reality. Just imagine it's like a graph. So if you had a bunch of checkerboard lines, right, your circle is going to determine which square that you fall into, and that's going to determine which parallel reality you're magnetically attracted or in alignment with. Make sense? Excellent. Okay. So, can you prepay karma? Yes, you can. It's weird to even think about, but there's moments in which a person can get like, let me see how's best to explain this. Sometimes you can get hurt as a child. And I take that very seriously. I have 2 little kids. But sometimes a child will get hurt. And then when they're an adult, something will happen. And it reminds them of the childhood. And so what the star people say about that is it's a prepayment of the karma. And so you may have taken the karma. You may have paid the karma. And then later on in life, you made a mistake. And so that you are actually able to manifest that. It's a very like touchy topic, right? So it's like, but yes, you can prepay the karma. You can. And so sometimes even we ask ourselves, well, why the hell did I get hurt? I was a child. A lot of times it was either a prepayment of karma for something that you're going to do in later in life, or it could be from the past life that you're paying now. But all the lives are happening simultaneously. So for any reason, like for any, you actually would have to pull yourself out of the holographic simulation and look at it from the higher self's perspective. Your higher self can see all timelines at once. And so it can see what happened, why did you get hurt as a child? And then why did all this stuff happen? When I was a kid, I slammed my finger in a door. My nail fell off. It was horrible. I had surgery. And so, but I was a kid. Like, why did that happen? And they're like, well, maybe it happened because you prepaid the karma from a past life on that one. So that answered my question. Right. And it goes like 10 levels deeper because it was. Oh, he just told me something that's really funny. It was my middle finger that when I was a child, I would always flip the bird. And so it's funny because when you have an energetic imbalance in your energetic grids, it locates itself to a particular finger, right? Because each finger, I was a horrible child. I was kind of difficult, very rebel. Sorry, not sorry. But you can cause imbalances in each and every one of the fingers and the arms and the legs and every single body part, including your eyes, your eyebrows. Now, many times you take a look at the micro expressions. And so when someone shows sadness, they'll have sad lines here. That's a micro expression. That's what that is. But it's known as a micro expression, but not really. The micro expressions normally flash as you express emotion. Now, from constantly expressing that emotion, the star people are saying it causes a wrinkle to form. That's how it works. So when we know this, now all of a sudden you can explain that all of the wrinkles come from emotions. And so when your emotions, you constantly fire off the micro expressions, then all of a sudden it generates lines. And not only that, but the lines on your hands, the lines on your feet, they can all change and everything can fluctuate depending on the frequencies that you hold. When you notice that you have something that is changing and it's changing for a negative, then that means more love is needed. Because when you add more love into the grids, it starts to heal whatever is broken. You always want to watch for the mirror reflections. A mirror reflections is anything that happens with another person. And so that other person is mirroring back to you something that you need to work on inside of yourself so that you can ascend and evolve. And so every single person that you have an interaction with is a mirror reflection. Now, the law of polarity shows us we have to experience it, and then we have to watch other people experience it. Or we have to, that's it. And like sometimes it's just weird because sometimes 3 people can get involved in that. The star people saying all the times 3 people get involved in that. So there's always the one party in the fight, the second party in the fight, and then the witness. That's 3. And that completes the circle is what the star people are saying. So the law of polarity, you may drink too much alcohol, and then later on in life, you see someone else who's drinking too much alcohol after you stop. So you have to clear it up, and then it switches. And so, but then you get to see it from everyone's perspective. It's like gaining a different perspective of that topic. And so that goes right into the mirror reflections. So when you're having, an interaction with the person, even me interacting with you guys. And so my interactions with you, it's like, oh, I did that before. So I make mental notes. Okay, how many people in my sessions am I seeing? What issues are they having or what's coming up for them in their emotions? And I'm like, okay, I've had all that stuff. So then I go back in after the session is over and I check to see if any of their stuff has triggers me. How did it make me feel when I walk through that stuff? So it's a healing journey for me as well as you guys, except I do my own self-healing with the star people after the session. I do double the healing because you have to clean off the energetics and all that stuff. Star seeds or ascended masters have already ascended. No, so why learn that to ascend again? It's part of the game. So I know for a fact that I'm an ascended master. I came from a very, very high frequency. Then I was in the Arcturian family. And now I'm here on Earth because the ascended masters, we had to come from very, very high frequencies, higher than 5D many times. And then we dropped down. And so if we started at 11D, we dropped down to say 7. And then from there, we drop down to 5. And so you're slowly incorporating the soul back into a physical form. And so the Arcturians are still physical, but very instant manifest. So they're very crystallized as well. And so when you drop into 3D, now all of a sudden it's like, wham, you're getting hit with the physicality of life. That whole process also goes hand in hand with the yuga cycles. So the consciousness will expand and then it will shrink. But normally the levels continue to go up. And so your soul form will go up and up and up, even though it's more like a roller coaster, but like a wavy one, because it's a frequency wave. So yeah. And then you want to learn because you want to learn. And that's it. Like, let's say, for an example, you were an ascended master. So now what do? You do everything, but now what is it that makes you happy? Helping other people. How do you help people who have everything? This is the same as the Arcturians. What do you do if you have all the technology, you have everything you want, you painted as many paintings as you want? What are you going to do with yourself? Now let's focus on the other planets and let's see if we can help them, right? Because then we're going to be learning stuff by doing that. Now let's travel and explore the universe. And so this is a natural process of evolution. Do you make the pictures behind you or the kids? The kids, they do. This is my new one. Check this one out. See? I like to flash the UFOs in the background so that you guys can help me manifest going on the UFO. This is me and my kids, and the Starman's in there. So it's so much fun. And then my daughter did a photo of the blue man. So this was her. She's 9. She put a little star on his jacket. So cute. I love showing off their artwork. There we go. Man, I made it quicker. That's okay. I'll fix it later. But yeah, my son's like a total artist. And so I could totally see him doing amazing things when he turns into adult, because he actually, the way he casts his energy, he makes it a manifestation when he does his art. And so he's like, oh, thank you for coming true. And then boom, it comes true. Oh, Siri got you. So yeah, and like he's made so many art, like canvases, pieces of art, paintings, or clay, and then all of a sudden it manifests. So I've noticed this because I watch, right? And then I'm like, oh my God, it manifested. There was one photo where he drew 3 stick figures rolling around in money, and it came true. Him and his father, you got to check. And then all of a sudden the 3 of them went out and they went shopping and all sorts of stuff, and they were happy. So he manifests crazy. Some people make vision boards. I know a lady who makes vision boards and then she mails them to people. It's amazing. Yeah. Yeah, I love when I hear them in the background. They're always, I'm surprised you guys never really hear them, because they're always in the scooter up and down the hallway and all sorts of stuff. It's fun. But that's how I know that they don't get hurt. Is when I hear the scooter going with them laughing, I'm like, they're fine. It's good. Yeah. Okay. Let me see. So we got one question left. So the last question was candle pops and dark energetics and sage. And so when we were going through the attachment clearing session or class, it was a class. And so it took 4 hours, but there was a lot of darkness that we covered. There was a lot of emotions that were released. Now, afterwards, the star people were like, we're going to put you in the soul path, right? So I was already preparing. Now, I normally light a candle in my bathroom because I feel like it's an element. So we have air, we have water, we have fire, earth, right? Well, we're actually grounded because of the metal in the pipes and the tubings. And so when you take a bath, so long as you have metal pipes, you're grounded to the earth. So it actually does something to the ions, and it makes you anti-inflammatory and all this stuff. It grounds you in. It's beautiful. So while I was popping while I was lighting the candle, it went pop. And it actually shot a tiny piece of fire at me. And I was like, what the hell is that? Right? I've never seen a candle shoot a piece of fire at a person before. And it did that. And so now I knew sage does that, because when you have a dark being or an attachment on you and you light a piece of sage, the sage will pop. And so there was one time I lit a piece of sage and I was saging somebody. And right as I got into their energy grid, it popped at them. And there was no way, like, why would you pop? You just pop for no random reason, right? It just popped at them. And I was like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. But then it led to questions, and this is how we learn. And so I asked the star people, why did it pop? And it popped because he had a dark being attached to him. Okay, so how do you get it? And okay, I think my battery's dying. My battery's totally dying. Okay, I forgot to plug you guys in. Let me just say real quick. Okay, perfect. So I knew that it can do that for sage. I had no idea that it would do that for a candle. But the candle actually shot a very tiny piece of fire at me. So I was like, oh my God. And then they were like, that's the same thing that happens with sage. Don't be worried. We should never be worried. We should always, and not only that, but, and like, I don't really encourage going to church. I'm more of a scientist. However, if you think that you have darkness attached to you and you want to get rid of it, go sit in the church and meditate. Do it during the off hours. The angels actually hang out in the churches because so many people go there to worship, and a lot of those people have open hearts because they're loving, right? They're going to church for a reason. They're becoming spiritual, whatever their reasons and modalities are. Just go and sit in the church when no one's there and allow the frequency to wash over you. Many times I've walked into people's houses, and I'm a channel. I'm very intuitive. I could feel energy. But I walk into people's houses, and those people go to church, and their houses is very, very clean energy. And the only thing I could think of is they're going to church. And that's the reason why. And then I start people and say, yeah, the angels hang out in the churches. So even though we hear stories of a lot of negativity surrounding the churches and manipulation, all that nonsense, but the angels hang out there because that's where people go to worship. And when you worship, you're supposed to be going inside yourself. Right? So your body is your temple. You're supposed to be worshiping your body. That doesn't mean like worship, like bow down to your body. That means wash it, care for it, put good food in it, right? Your temples are here. So your heartbeat is in your temples. So slow your heartbeat, go inside the mind, go inside your body, your temple, right? Your temple, this is a temple for God, which is the source frequency. We know our soul is directly connected to the source frequency. This is why the Bible tells us that God sees everything, because just imagine the eyes that you see out of, God is seeing from, right? And God is the source frequency. It's only a frequency wave that we are, each and every one of us are a fractal. So it's like each and every one of us is a tiny little piece of God. So I just imagine God like a net, right? And that net has a million different dots, billions of different dots that fire down into the physical world. And that's us. That tiny little slither of that frequency wave is us. So what's going to happen when we finally learn to activate more of that divinity that's inside of us? Because it's only a frequency. It's your soul. We know we could take the soul or the light body, whatever terminology that you guys want to use. I know that this is like a touchy topic for some people, but we can take our soul, our light body, and we can astral project. We can pull ourselves out of the body. We can go fly around the entire universe. We can see everything. We are a tiny little fractal of the source frequency. And so that means that we're a piece of God. So if that God is inside of us, how do we coax it? The way we do it is love. Now, the people who are doing it with anger and hatred, I feel so, my heart goes out to them, but I understand. However, we all know about the wheel of karma. And so the karma tells us what you get, what you put out is what comes back to you tenfold. And so what those people are putting out in the negative light, they're going to have to go through multiple lifetimes to clear that karma. Now, the darkness and the light, it actually works together because it's one being. And so some people like Hitler, for an example. And so now you have somebody who's really, really dark, who came into the physical reality and did dark things. And like the memory is still in the complex and all that stuff. However, you have to realize, what was his soul? Was his soul someone who was so filled with light that they knew that they can come into this world and do these dark deeds and it wouldn't damage the soul? And so we already have, we know that the people for 9/11, the people who lost their lives during 9/11, that was a very particular soul group who reincarnated here to take the hit for 9/11 so that the entire collective consciousness could evolve. And so like, we don't see the organization that's happening behind the curtain. None of us truly know all the strings behind the curtain that's being pulled. We don't know what souls came here to do what missions. We only, right now, each and every one of us, we're primarily focused on like, okay, how do I activate? But we're not really seeing the big picture, and it's not time for us to see the big picture. When it is time, the big picture will be unlocked. And so they told me, because I want it now. Right. I've been one of those people. Okay, we can download information. Can I get a download? Right. Let me see. I want it. And so they're like, some things are not ready for the collective consciousness. And so it's not about the single person. It's about the entire organism. So if the entire organism is not ready for it in this reality, then we have to do the internal work to shift our reality to a reality in which the organism is ready for it. So that's deep. Like, have a conversation like that around a table. You know what I mean? Like, this is the kind of stuff that I talk to the star people about. I'm like, wow. So then how does it work? Right? Because then if we can shift into a higher density, which means that the human consciousness is ready for it. And they're like, well, that's the trick. The trick is to focus on yourself and raise your biological frequency so you can shift. Now, I want to say in 2012 was when I had my memory issue. So I got shot back down to a level 0. And so, but they said that it was setting the tone for my individual manifestation. It was also alleviating the karma for Lemuria, because Lemuria, when they went through this process, they put these pyramids in like the Bermuda Triangle, and like the China Sea has one too. And so when the Lemurian people got a solar flash, it generated a frequency which knocked the entire consciousness down to 0. And so that basically means that everyone had Alzheimer's. And so when they had Alzheimer's, wherever they were standing, they all of a sudden they couldn't remember anything. The only people who did not get affected were those people whose Merkaba field was properly rotating. So your Merkaba field is your aura field, is your energetic grids. It's all the same thing. It's kind of like overlaid. It's like it's overlaid. It's like there's 1 and 1 and 1 and 1 and 1. But we blend them all together. They look white. And so we have a triangle up and a triangle down. Each one counter rotates. Do not focus on which way they rotate. Just tell them to rotate the way that they need for positivity and love. They know what to do because the energetics are smarter than us. I hate to say that, but they are. They know what to do. And so you can program your energetic grids or your Merkaba. You can tell it to thank you for protecting me against viruses and bacteria. Now, all of a sudden, you've made a frequency shift. This is the way the crystals work. So when you have a crystal, your energetic grids is pulling from that crystal's frequency, which then in turn changes your magnetism, and it changes the way that you manifest into the physical reality. And so when you speak to your Merkaba field, now you can tell the Merkaba field, thank you for protecting me against cuts and scrapes. I can't remember the last time I got a cut. And so, but it's kind of like this. We tell the Merkaba field to protect us against a bunch of stuff, and then it doesn't happen. And so we think it's good. But then when you truly want to master the physical reality, now just imagine you put the cheat codes on the Xbox, right? So now you're a cheater. You have everything, right? You've unlocked everything. Then what's the next step? You remove the cheat codes and you do it the harder way. You level up so that you're doing it on the hard path. And so we consider Earth the hard path, but the truth of the matter is that we have a cheat code right here in our energetic grid. We just have to learn to properly harness it, activate it, and then program it. That's your Merkaba field. And so I can start a class on that. If anybody is interested, shoot me a message. If I have more than, say, 10 people who want to do a Merkaba programming or even Merkaba/crystal programming class, I'll host one. So this way you guys can come and I'll show you guys. Right? You go into each and every one of the grids. So the root chakra, what programs do you want to see in the root chakra? The root chakra is your home. So, okay, thank you, Merkaba field, for leveling up or up-leveling my home. And so thank you for allowing me to live in a $500,000 home. Amen. Usa, usa, usa. Now, all of a sudden, you've just programmed that into your root chakra, which is part of your Merkaba field. It radiates out into your energetic grids. It shifts your magnetism, which then in turn shifts the way that you manifest everything. Now, yes, it may take a little bit of time. It depends on how much focus you are putting into the root chakra, because let's be real here. You could sit down, you can make a list with a pen and a paper, and you can say, what steps can I take? You can get the $500,000 house by doing that. Each and every one of us can do it. And I know for a fact you don't even need good credit. You could just change your birth certificate, apply for the credit that you are supposed to have being United States real citizens, but you can become a national, and then all of a sudden you have access to millions of dollars. Yes, there's TikToks online where people can do that. I have not done it yet, but I know you can do it because I've seen people do it online. So it is a potential, right? So each and every one of us can manifest that right now if we just open up our minds and place our focus on trying to manifest it. That's one way of doing it. However, what I'm telling you guys to do is to do it energetically. So go inside the root chakra, like the same exact way. In the physical world, you're going to take all these baby steps. You're going to have to go through all these processes. You're going to have to go inside. You're going to have to sign the paperwork, all the stuff. When you go inside the root chakra, it changes, and all of a sudden you might be gifted the house. It is possible. It'll just show up in your life, right? And so when you work on your energetics, and this is why the star people come in, and the star people do energetic clearings on every one of my session people. Now I'm seeing the people level up at exponential rates, because now we started doing attachment releases. So we're releasing all of the junk that's gunking up your energetics, and the star people are supercharging you. That's how that works. That's why I do the energetics. We have it before and after each session. And so it's amazing. It's amazing to see. And people make complete life changes. And it's, you can't really, from a half-hour pep talk, you guys listen to me talk for 2 hours. Have you guys actually changed your life dramatically or drastically? Some of you have. But when you do the energetics, it makes it much more powerful. And so I know my energetics, it's just I see. And not only that, but when you clear the energetics, you can tell if a full energetic was fully done on you if people call you. So if someone that you haven't spoken to in like 6 months or a year, 12 years, and they all of a sudden they call you, that's because the Arcturians cut all the cords off you. And so don't answer the phone. Don't let them put the cord back. Yeah, we had that conversation too. But it's important to know, because when they call you, it's because they're putting an energetic cord on you, making the contact, and then they don't realize why they do it. It's subconscious. And so, but it's pulling out of your energetic grids. So you have to stop allowing those people into your energetics. No, you cannot talk to me right now. I have to focus on myself. It is perfectly fine to go into a small isolation to rebalance your energetic grids. At many times when we run the empath and the narcissist cycle, we get called and they put us alone, so we can figure out who we are again, because we have to heal. Because all of that it's taxing, it's draining. It took the life out of us. Many people, they forget who they were, or they don't feel like themselves anymore. And so anybody who feels like that, I don't feel like myself anymore, get off, go home, because that's an attachment. And so cast it off you, and then just white light your entire body. So it seals off the energetic paper cut, and it doesn't allow the attachment to latch back onto you. That's actually how it works. And so attachments, they can latch onto you at any point in the meridian and the ley line systems, because you have lines going up and lines going to the side. And so the attachments will latch onto you, and they'll start triggering emotions. So I don't feel like myself anymore. How many times have you felt that emotion code when you walk through that experience? It's over and over and over. It's probably every day. And so when you get rid of the attachment, now all of a sudden it lightens it. And so you may only feel it like once. And then it's once because it's drawing your attention and wants you to heal it, because the emotion will come up like once, you can heal it. And then that's it. It's done. But it's not like you have something in your ear all day telling you this. So your whole life will change, because now when you don't feel like yourself, then you don't feel like doing the things that bring you joy and happiness and peace, because we all start out as children, and children, they bring us joy and happiness and peace because they are focused in the yellow chakra, the solar plexus, which brings you creativity, love, joy, bliss, what makes you happy, music, art, all this stuff. Kids love crayons. They love colors. That's how they think. That's how they learn and grow. When we turn into adults, we become gray compared to the children. Many of us, not all of us, become gray. And so when you have children, again, the children reactivate the childlike mind inside the adult, right? And this is only from this world, because this isn't like this on other planets. Because if you were born and you had a natural intuition to play the piano, when you were a child on another planet, they would have encouraged it to the degree of, if this was what you love to do, they would have made it open and available for you to do all day long, every single day, with master teachers. And then all of a sudden, you would see how that piano on their planet would have been expanded. And so it wouldn't be like here, where I don't know anyone who really plays a piano in real life. I know there's a person on TikTok, but when's the last time that you walked somewhere and you saw someone playing a piano, right? And so the music has been suppressed deeply on this planet. It's been manipulated and corroded. So now it's coming back, because now we see people who are musicians, who were the starving artists. Now they're going on TikTok and they're making full-time livings and profits and all this stuff. And they're skipping the whole, you need that. What is that organization that promotes them? They're skipping all of that, and they're going right to iTunes, and they're posting their own music, and they're making their own money. So it's like, and the same exact thing is going to happen too with the government. And so we're very like, oh, down with the government, blah, blah, blah. But it's going to come to a point like with the musicians, right? So we have a peaceful path that we can manifest, or we have a revolution that can happen. And so I'm all about the peaceful path, because I see that as the path of least resistance. And so it's the same as the music industry. Now people are doing it themselves. They're making their own money. They're supporting themselves. And now they don't need the producers. And so, but we can do the same thing with the government. We become self-sufficient. We share and we care. We have the tiny home community set up. Even you don't even really need a tiny home community, because the community right outside your door should be your tiny home community. Because wherever you're living, just imagine for 1 second if the power goes out. What are you guys going to do? Who's going to share and care if you don't know your neighbors, because everyone's so busy? So the first thing to do would be to meet your neighbors, right? Hey, let's all have a powwow on our block so that we know each other, so that if anything happens, we're strong as a team. We're united, right? And so that's the first step. When I was a child, I knew every single one of my neighbors. I knocked on the door. I talked to everybody because I wanted to know people. And I felt like that was how it was. That was how it is in the Andromedan system. Everyone knows each other. So, and that was my natural intuition as a child. And so these are qualities in our world that we have to bring back. Now, the internet connects us, so we don't have to bang on doors. We don't have to talk to our neighbors. Instead, we can go click, click, click. But, what happens if the internet gets suppressed? Look at China. They're suppressing the internet. China's TikTok is totally different. And they have a TikTok for children. And the TikTok for children is all educational. And they're only allowed, each profile, I guess each phone, they're only allowed 40 minutes on TikTok. Why won't they release that to the United States? I would like an app where my child can only watch 40 minutes and it had to be educational videos. And so I guess that there's a whole screening process. Like, you can make a video, but it has to be educational. It has to be for children. It has to get reviewed, all that stuff. It's genius, right? Because let me tell you something. TikTok and the apps teach the children more than any adult sitting there drilling all this boring information into their head. And so Andromeda, no. Arcturian. My Starman's blue, totally blue. So, yeah, but the children, they sit there with the apps and they love it. And because they love it, they're actually digesting all this information really fast compared to what we're doing with the drilling of the books and you have to regurgitate this. That's not the way we're meant to learn. We're not meant to learn that way at all. How do you guys learn as adults, right? You get interested and you find something that you love to do and then you dive in deep, right? And so that's the way children learn. And so TikTok, it has an option to search. And so my kid searches clay models, right? How to do artwork. All of these things that he's interested in, he's clicking the search. And then all of a sudden it's supposed to show you things that are similar to what you search. This is how the app's supposed to work. But they're throwing all this commercials and nonsense in it. Yeah. Why are we letting them train the children of the USA? The training of all children needs to be brought back to the parents immediately. All of them. And so even if we have to lower the amount of money it takes to run a house so that the women can stay home with the kids. And I hate to say that because it sounds a little sexist. And I know half the women are like, I like my job. But the children should not be programmed by the government. No. Then we need brand new schools open up where it's not called a school. It's called an after school program during the day, right? Where the moms, we could drop our kids off and there's no government regulations, right? We don't, why do we even have government regulations on what we're teaching the kids, right? Why is that? Why is that? Because you want everyone to know the same information straight across the board. So that's not the way humanity was meant to evolve itself. You have different people in different areas. They're at different consciousness levels. And so if everyone's in a different consciousness level, you guys are not going to like what I like. Not you guys. You guys love what I like. But, like someone who's physically focused, do you think they're going to be interested in physics and all this information? No. To them, it's going to be like pulling teeth having to come to one of my lectures because they're not ready for the information. So why are we doing this to our kids? It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense. Yeah, and that's another thing. Let me tell you something. When a child, it goes from the time of birth until they reach about 7 or even 8. Their brainwaves are in theta, and so they're little sponges. So they should not be going to any school to sit down and stand up, and you have to ask to use the potty and all the stuff. Especially while their brainwaves are in theta, because you're programming the children. There's a reason that they put them in school that young. So now just imagine if we change the entire civilization because the people demand it, right? So now we're not sending our kids to any type of school until after they're 7. After school programs, yes. And not only that, but some countries, they give you a stipend for taking your kid to the after school program. So the government will pay for all of it just the same as it's paying for school, right? And so like as a homeschool mom, when this is something that I personally have noticed with my kids' school, because they were in school and then COVID hit and I took them out, and now I'll never put them back in. It was divinely guided. And so, but I've noticed the school is all harassing, blah, blah, blah. You have to listen. You have to have a certain amount of days. You can't be late, all this stuff, because they're getting paid. They're getting a paycheck because my kid was in school. So now that I'm homeschooling, there's no paycheck for the school. Where's the money going? Because we're not getting it, right? It's not going to pay for any extra activities for the homeschooling people. So you're basically on your own. So why is that? Then we have to ask these questions, right? So if you had all this money to pay the school and they were harassing us that we had to be there because they wanted to get paid, we should have a stipend, or you should pay for after school activities or any time. And that would allow us as a community as a whole to open up different buildings like this where we could bring the children so that they can sit down and learn science. They can sit down and they can have a different teacher, right? We're supposed to learn from different people. We're not supposed to be regulated. The second you have regulations, you have to be careful. Now, food regulations. We are supposed to have food regulations. And so the whole industry as a whole, we were supposed to have regulations so that you can't drop my food on the floor and just give it to me. There's regulations in place so that you're going to get in trouble if you do that. What's happening? The FDA, the Food and Drug Administration, they take bribes. So if someone's dirty or the medicine is incomplete, right, the FDA takes a bribe and then they push it through anyway, and then people get sick, then there's lawsuits. It's a circle. So that system is broken. It's not working. So if the system's not working and it's broken, that means we have to turn back to tinier communities. I need to know where my food is coming from. I need to have it sourced by a local farmer. I don't currently. So, yeah. Oh, yeah. So I thought you were saying I was so wrong. Okay. Yeah. We should have access to many more services that COVID has taken away. That's a fact too. So it's just amazing. But imagine if we came back to a tinier community in which everybody knew one another. Right now, there's a farmer who has it figured out. And so they opened up a farm, and his family, everyone, they worked together. And there was one day where he had an enlightening moment, and he was like, we figured it out. We only have to work 2 hours a day. And so they get up in the morning, I guess they feed the animals, they do what they do, they tend their gardens, and then the rest of the day is theirs. And it's like, do we really need all the technology, all the nonsense, all of this, all of that? Or what's the rat race for? Why do we have that? So we can have a computer, so we can go on the internet, so we can have phones. All that stuff is dividing us. Because when's the last time everyone sat down at a dining table, like you went to a restaurant, and people don't have their phones in front of them? The technology is dividing us big time. And so when we stop this behavior, right, when you put the phone down and you're like, I'm going to be present, I'm going to be in the moment, I'm going to sit with my kids and play Uno, I'm going to leave the phone across the house. I do not want to hear you. And I have a policy. I try not to touch my phone or engage in any type of even work or activity, none of that stuff until like 2 p.m. so that I can have the time with my kids. We can do the homeschooling. We could do, we go for walks because gym is part of their homeschooling, right? And we sit down and we talk about the stars and the moon and all sorts of wonderful things. And so, but you need to have that time to be with the people who you are in front of. And so, it's a different way of thinking. Now, what happens if we all did a retreat? Just imagine for 1 second that I sold retreat packages and we all went to a beach. Would you guys appreciate it if I was on my phone? Absolutely not. You'd be like, put that stuff down. We want to hear you talk, right? And so that phone would be out the damn window. It would be gone. And so I would probably even leave in the hotel room because I would not want the interruption. And so, but that's where our lives are taking us. And so we need to start thinking, okay, it's illogical to think that we can put down the phone and the technology because this is how it connects us. So we can at least limit it. And so make sure that you guys each take at least an hour a day. If you could do it right before you go to sleep, that's the best, because that's the best time to actually have a nice cup of bedtime tea, right? Thank the mushroom collector, put a little mushroom powder in it, right? And really sit with yourself, have a book. I have a candle lit across the room. I also have a little oil diffuser. And so it makes tea tree and eucalyptus and all that nice minty stuff. It's very nice. And so, but I'm calling upon the elements. I'm making my room my sanctuary, and I'm spending the time with myself to see how I did today, right? So was there anything that I could have done better? I write it down. I went to the gym today. I didn't do my hair. Could I have done this better tomorrow? No, I thought it was okay. Fine. Perfect. So write it down, right? And then see what changes you can make. Maybe I spent too much time on my phone. Instead, I could have been doing my hair. Yes, that's a potential, right? That's not the way today happened, but just saying, but you can write it down. You can make small changes, because the small changes, eventually what's going to happen is you're going to change the person that you are by making these teeny tiny little changes. And so the easiest way, because the star people are stepping forward now and they're saying we should actually try and summon your highest potential. And so your highest potential is directly connected into your highest potential is directly connected into your higher self. And so your higher self will fully embody your heart chakra when you call upon your highest potential. Now, what that looks like is visualization. How does it look like for you to be at your best? Now, I want you just to know you have to take your childhood into consideration while visualizing this. What things made you happy, joyful? What things brought you the most amount of entertainment? What things had you saying, oh my God, I wish I could do this again tomorrow and the next day and the next day? Those things need to be incorporated with your higher self vision or perception. And so when you start to perceive your highest and best self, what does that person look like? Does she get up every day? Does she go to the gym? Does she break a sweat? What is she eating? What does her behaviors look like? Is she cursing? Does she curse at all? That's something I'm working on. Occasionally I still curse, but it's been I'm not going to lie to you guys. It's been a process. I had a trucker's mouth. And so to go from having a trucker's mouth to not a trucker's mouth, right? But I'm almost there. And so, yeah. And then not only that, what about made me upset? I don't know what you guys, you're probably having a side conversation, but whatever makes you upset, you want to write that down too, because that's a trigger. And all of the triggers are memories or emotional triggers that we need to heal, because anybody should be able to walk up to you and curse at you. And you shouldn't get all emotional and upset because you know you're not a jerk, right? But the second that you think or you feel like you're being a jerk and someone calls you a jerk, now you get emotional. And so it's just a trigger. So if you get triggered, that's something that you have to heal. That's not anything to do with the person who's cursing you out. That's something inside of you. Anyone can come at you with negativity. You can reply with love. And so I try my absolute hardest to reply with love for everyone. And so it doesn't matter what you guys are going through. You know, some guy, I almost ran him off the road once. This was about a year ago. Pennsylvania is different. And so normally we have the turning lane and it's only a turning lane. This is how New York does it. And then the lane next to it, it's the turning right lane and the going straight lane. Well, it's backwards in Pennsylvania. And so it was you turn left and you go straight. I'm not used to that. So I was in the right turning lane and then he almost got, whatever, but he cursed me out and he was angry. He was in his car. Rah, 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 and I was all like, many love and blessings, right? So we all have a choice. You have a choice at what, well, thank God I'm protected. And no cars got damaged. So thank God. But we have a choice on how we can handle the situation. I could either, guilt myself. Oh, I shouldn't have done that, blah, blah, blah. You know what I mean? And beat yourself up, which is something I would have done when I was dealing with the empath and the narcissist cycle, right? I was very critical on myself at one point. Or I can handle the situation with so much love that the man will eventually wave at me as he's driving away. We all have a choice. This is just a frequency here, right? And so when I drop into my love, my heart space, the lower chakra of the heart, the bottom of my heart, when I drop there, and I'm like, thank you for the experience. Now, there's a system out. I saw a TikTok. It's called Ho'oponopono. I have not researched the system, but from the TikTok, once again, I can tell you guys, they tell you while you are having each and every experience in your mind, you should be saying, thank you for the experience. I am grateful for the experience. I love you experience. And if you need to say sorry for certain things, you say sorry, right? So like, for an example, if you stepped on a bug, you could say, I'm sorry, I stepped on a bug. That's fine. And so you take it like that. But what you're actually doing is you're generating a mental ability, which is rebalancing your emotions. And so the main key of this holographic simulation is to take control of your emotions. So when you take full control over your emotions, then all of a sudden it allows you to access the higher density levels, which is if the higher the density, you're going to shoot right up to 5D. There's no reason why anybody can't open up 5D now. 5D is already here. It's a frequency wave. It's crystalline density. You activating your energetic grids. We can all do this right now. I've seen 5D. I've been in it. I felt it. And then I dropped back down because I wanted to bring the knowledge to humanity. This is what the star people told me. My memory is a little funny. So I just remember having the experience. I didn't remember why. They told me my higher self wanted to. So that's okay too. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you. I love you. So that's perfect. See? And so Nancy has heard it and it's changed her life. So, and that's wonderful, because the second that you start to take every single thing, and you can even walk through this reality from the third person perspective. And so you could pull yourself back. Okay, so how is Danielle treating her body today? Did she do good today? Right. And so how are you going to handle the situation that's confronted in front of you? Right. And so you're handling it from a third party perspective, which changes, it gives you like a half-second delay in the thought process. So like, whereas if you were ego based, you would just respond. But when you're thinking from a back point of view, of like a third party perspective, is what the star people are saying. When you think from that perspective, it gives you that half-second to make the decision on what to say. Now, this goes hand in hand, my starman is saying, because they can see the thought before it hits the mind. And this develops because of that third party perspective. That is so cool. Write it down, right? We got to write that down. So that's how we develop that ability. And so that ability has a lot to do with telepathy, because, and for a long time, I was like, oh, you can't let anybody else listen to me, because I was all like, my thoughts were very scrambled and F you. And, all the stuff was happening in my head because I was going through my healing. A lot of times when we clear out the attachments, it's a natural stepping stone process. And so you may be more cursing. Okay, it's a natural stepping stone process. We clear out all the attachments, and if you have any cursing attachments, you will be cursing for like a week while you are discharging them. It's natural. This is what happens. I've seen it happen in my sessions too, so I know. And so when we do this, then all of a sudden, we are able to develop that extrasensory space in which the thought is being magnetically pulled into our thought grids. It's genius, because the Arcturians around me, I was like, don't let them see my thoughts, because I knew that they could see them out here. They could see them magnetically coming in. I don't know how far out they can see them. I would imagine that it's pretty far out, because they have time-space technology. Because I was on a motorcycle once and I almost flipped the bike and died, and they stopped it from happening. They sent me a telepathic vision of me flipping the bike and the concrete road coming up as I was doing 200. And so they were like, you're not listening to us, which means that they were trying to get my attention beforehand, but I had no idea. I thought it was my own intuition, because I knew I was a little nervous, but I wasn't listening because I wanted to hang out with my biker boys. And so then they showed me a vision of this happening, and it was like, I have to go home. And not even 5 minutes after that happened, my biker boys got into a cat and mouse chase with the cops. I was an inexperienced rider. They used to call me the tail, because I would always be back there because I didn't want to speed. Right. But if there were cops behind me, I probably would have sped, because nobody wants to take that ticket. So, I went home until they saved my life. And this is when I was younger. And it was so funny. I'll never forget, because I went home, I put the bike away, I go inside, and I'm like, Mom, was that God? Like, who was that? And why did they say you're not listening to us? Who's us? Right. And so this is when my mom raised me Catholic. So we went to Catholic school. Oh, riding a motorcycle is the best. The best. It's just wonderful. You feel like you're flying. It's flying. Like, I used to always and like when I first started riding the bike, I would get very nervous. So we got the helmets that have the Bluetooth. And so I had my friend, and he would talk to me. And so it was just amazing to have that relationship where he would talk me through, and he's like, come on, don't be a chicken. You can go a little faster, right? Or when you're pulling up and you're going next to like a tractor trailer, there's like a gust of wind that will push you aside. And he's like, now the gust of wind is going to come. Don't panic. And then there I go. And then you reconnect, And so, but it's really nice because you don't feel alone. And so nowadays I'm like, I don't have a bike because I have 2 kids, but I would love to get another one. It's the kids, right? They always make you give it up. Like, I'll never forget too, because I told my mom I was pregnant on a motorcycle. And so I had my helmet on, and I looked at her, and I opened the little visor, and I was like, Mom, I'm pregnant. She was like, what? And I was like, what? And I left. And so she, get off the bike. It's just so funny. Yeah. Yeah, you sold it because you thought you were getting married and didn't have the time. Yeah, so that happens to a lot of people. It's such a shame. I mean, but the motorcycles of the future are going to be anti-gravity. And so you have to realize that there's going to be settings and sensors on the motorcycles and the technology so that you cannot get hurt. So just imagine you're sitting on something and there's all these sensors. So if you rock to the left, it's going to compensate and keep you on the bike. Or you can even have, to start people to saying, a belt that you put on, like a harness, like a rock climbing belt, and it goes around your legs and your waist. And then it has magnets, and the technology will activate, which activates the magnets, and it keeps you on top of the bike so that when the bike turns, it's like a seatbelt. It magnetically locks you onto the bike. And so if the bike senses, and it can see in every direction because there's cameras or sensors, and so it can see all the cars and people around you. So if you're going to nail into something, it'll just anti-gravity you up so that you don't get hurt. So it's pretty dummy proof. So you could take a toddler and clip him onto this thing and send him to school, and the child will not get hurt. That's high technology. Yeah, you're just off catching the end. Welcome, welcome. I was always a little rebel, always as a child. But I think that's why, because I really, like, a part of me really feels like I could start a revolution on the planet. But then a part of me is like, the revolution is going to have to be meditation, right? And we're going to have to do it with frequency and with this, because it makes more sense to be at peace and change the frequency this way instead of holding a flag and starting a war. Right. And so I'm all about, let's meditate together. Right. Let's get a group together. Allie does morning meditations. And so, right, my mornings I do for my own private stuff. Like I have to cut salad and fruit. Everything is fresh every morning. I have the time, I do it. So, but yeah. Oh, you rode a motorcycle in Michigan in snow? I don't even like to ride when it rains. Because in New York, there's potholes everywhere. I was on Long Island. There's potholes everywhere. There's way too much traffic, people in and out. And then the oil slicks get you. So, yeah, it's just wild. Excellent. It's definitely all about the group. We're all about community. And so just, come send me a message, guys. I do offer sessions. So I do one-on-one sessions with people. We are running classes. So I'm going to be posting probably tomorrow about the new class schedule. I do believe I'm going to be doing a new attachment class. So if you guys want to send me a message and let me know what classes you want, we could do an Merkaba programming class, right? So you guys can join me on a Zoom or even a webinar, and we can learn about the energetic grids. And so all the stuff. And then the attachment release, I'm definitely going to be doing again. I am going to be offering attachment release sessions. They have to be on a day where I can dedicate the entire day to the session, or to two different people, and do two different people on the same day, because we're not going to stop. So if the session goes over an hour, if it goes to 2 hours, if it goes to 3, it is what it is. You need to be cleared, we'll clear it. So I am going to be putting up attachment release sessions. Now, please realize during attachment release sessions, you're probably going to be crying. It's very, there has to be a level of trust. And for me, there has to be, like, I went to medical school, so I know the Hippocratic Oath, right? You do no harm, and you do not disclose other people's information. And so Branford Hall, it was on Long Island, so it was medical billing and coding. So I only went because I wanted my cousin to go, because she didn't have a career. So I was like, oh, I'll go hang out. And then, like, I turned out to be a teacher. So I taught every single class that I was in. It was amazing. And so I didn't even know anything to do with medical billing, but I dove into all the information, and I ended up, all the teachers loved me. So they let me teach the class that I was taking. I was made to be a teacher. So it's just wild. So, but yeah, absolutely cool. So the attachment release classes it's very much, it's a release. So it's all about confidentiality, right? And so, but I give you the list of the attachments. Like, I try and write them down so that you guys can take it, release it, and then focus on the list of attachments over the next couple of days. So if we did a Merkaba situation, would you feel if I have attachments? Yes, I feel all the attachments. So as a person, I've walked through my share of fire. So 99% of all the attachments that you guys have, I know what they feel like. This is what makes me powerful. That's what the star people say. I still do energetic clearings. I'm like, oh my God. But they're like, you're fine. Right. But so when I sense, I can feel it. And so it's in the frequency. So for example, let's see. I made a list. This took me 24 hours to make. It's 10 pages with the attachment's name and the emotion codes. And so I have this whole list of them. And so I can ask the star people to guide me to one. But most of the times, just by me poking at you, go into the chakra, feel. How does it make you feel? Is there a memory that comes up? Is there an attachment? How does the emotion code feel? And then all of a sudden, all of this stuff comes to you because it's not only me doing it, it's the star people triggering you to release the things in you that need to be released the most. And so it really is like I'm just a channel, right? The star people do most of the work. So, and it's wonderful because after you release all that stuff, I remember what I went through. I went through 4 days of attachment releases with the Arcturians. And I'm talking about, like, I woke up they had me up at 5:30 in the morning. I keep referring to them as the 5:30 clan. They're always up at 5:30 in the morning. It's like a surgeon's office, right? The surgeons are always there at 5:30 in the morning. That's how these people were. And they were like, come on, you're up now, and we're going to do the attachment release. You have your breakfast, you sit down, lay down, go into meditation, and then they're pulling at the energetic grids and they're pulling all the attachments off. And right. But then they showed me how to do it. And so now I dive into your emotions. I feel different areas of your actual grids, your energetic grid structures, and I start pulling off the attachments. Some crazy stuff happens. Sometimes people have really, really dark ones, and the star people will fully step forward and they will cast out the darkness. So it's absolutely beautiful and amazing. Like, but when they did that, I felt more like a passenger than anything, because I was like, oh, wow, they're really getting deep into that one. Right. So it's amazing. Yeah, it can be very draining, but you're releasing. So just imagine what happens when you have a good cry. You're releasing, right? So you're releasing all these emotions, all these traumas and tragedy, all this stuff that needs to be released. Because the second it releases and you rebalance, you're running a much cleaner energetic grid structure, which it changes your entire life. So if you're like down and depressed and all that stuff, and you start releasing and releasing and releasing, you're eventually going to raise in frequency. The second that you get to a certain point where you raise your frequency is the second that the universe shifts you. So if you're in a toxic environment, you raise your frequency enough, the universe is like, that person's no longer in alignment with the toxicity of this location. And so your location ring actually shifts, which shifts the location that you live in. That's how it works. And so I've seen it over and over again. So asking Archangel Michael can't cut all the cords. See, I've done that one, and I've called the archangels in. And when I first started doing the attachment releases, I thought the same thing like you guys. I thought we can just release all the attachments in one wha-bam. So I was like, oh, we're releasing all the attachments at once. And that was it. And you want to know what the Starman said? He said, it was so cute when you were doing that. I just didn't want to tell you. You have to actually know the name. But he didn't want to tell me because I wasn't ready for that level yet, because I had to release all of my attachments and go through that whole process. Right? And you know how men are. They're like, oh, you were so cute. That's how he is. He's real. Like, it's crazy. So, yeah. Thank you. Okay, guys. So I think we're going to wrap it up. I think tonight was good. Right? Anyone who has any questions, you can find me at daniellelipton.com. You can send me any questions. There's a little message box at the website. You can also find me on Facebook. Actually, if you go to daniellelipton.com, I put like a new bar up. So like my TikTok account, all the different accounts that I'm on, it scrolls now. So that's new. So you guys can find me. Also, anyone who wants to donate to my mission, I am starting to write the book this year. So I will be putting that together, as well as, some classes and all stuff. There's a bunch of stuff in the works, so we'll just leave it at that. But there's a donation icon at the bottom of the page, and then we take that and we do amazing things with it. And so thank you guys so incredibly much for supporting me. And then I do offer sessions, and so you guys have access to the session. I do offer healing sessions. So the healing sessions, you do not necessarily have to dive into the attachments if you do not feel comfortable. We just do regular energetic clearings on you. And so that one's nice too. It's like the beginner stage, right? You clean up the energetics and then you dive deep and you go into the attachments. But I do also offer ascension sessions. And so the ascension sessions, your star family actually makes contact and communication. So you can find out who they are and then ask them any questions about your evolution and your journey. And right, they will not tell you what to do. That's a solid fact. And so they tell me this all the time. They won't even tell me what to do. They're like, you have options. This is what you can do. And so they'll say which one is more powerful, but they will not command or tell us what to do. So we have to make our own choices, because it changes all the potentials when we make the choice. And they're kind of like if you think about the Jedi, right? And so the Jedi it's not really concerned with the darkness. They're more concerned with shining the light, because the light gives them access to moving items with their mind and all sorts of stuff. And so that's not, I mean, the Jedi that we see also fights, but that's not real in the solar system. So the star people, they're like the Jedi because they're doing all of these wonderful things with the light, and they fight their wars with light and love. And so they drop into meditation and they change things in the hologram through coming inside and changing the frequencies. But they're now saying that they bless people. And so what that means is, let's say I need my external reality to be shifted, like something's going on, it's crazy, right? Then all of a sudden they can drop into their meditation and send me love and light, raise my frequency so that it shifts the outside. So that's how they work. It's not an actual war as if you were picking up a sword and fighting. That actually, he who fights by the sword gets killed by a sword or something like that was said in the Bible. And so that's what that means, because you're looking at a mirror reflection of yourself. It's like shooting yourself in the toe when you hurt someone else, because the karma backlashes you. So when you raise your frequency to a certain degree and you get really, really high up there, then all of a sudden, when you do something wrong to a person, it's like tenfold immediately. I learned this the hard way, because I just learned this the hard way. We're not going to talk about it. But anyway, you guys have a great night. Yeah, and who loves saying that? The force is with you, right? But now I call it the source is with you, because it's the source frequency. Works, it's God. It's the same thing. So yeah, it's just wonderful. Thank you guys so incredibly much and so it's been interesting. And so I do believe, I don't know about tomorrow. We just checked the profiles, but I think Thursday at 7 p.m. is my next live. This way, all you guys know. So Thursday at 7 p.m. What date is that? Let me see. Well, it's the 31st now, so probably the 2nd. So Thursday, February 2nd at 7 p.m. I should be live. Maybe tomorrow. We'll see how it goes. Okay, but you guys have a wonderful evening and many, many love and blessings.